Hi everyone, this is the second video for week 2. Some of the things that we want to learn in this chapter are the difference between crimes and other types of wrongful conduct, elements of criminal liability, safeguards that protect the rights of persons. We're going to be able to list some crimes that affect businesses, some defenses to criminal liability, and we'll discuss how the internet has expanded opportunities for crime and outline some of the protection laws that have been given to help us. First of all, we need to distinguish between civil law and criminal law. Civil law. When I think of civil law, I think of the word individual, IVI, individual law. It's duties that exist between citizens, to companies, to people. An example would be a contract law. Civil law, if you have an issue, you bring a lawsuit against another person. In criminal law, the definition is, was there a wrong against society? Some examples of business crimes would be bribery, embezzlement, fraud. Now, in criminal law, a crime is prosecuted by the government. It could be the city of whatever, the state of Iowa, or federal government could come in and file that lawsuit, prosecution. So what is the burden of proof for each of those? With a civil case, you have to prove they are guilty with a preponderance of the evidence. 3/4 of the jury must agree on the verdict. In a criminal case, however, the state must prove they were guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that means there's a unanimous decision by the jury. Sanctions. They can be fined, imprisoned, or even death in a criminal, under criminal law. With civil law, basically the design is to compensate you for the injury. Someone embezzled money or might have, damaged your car or something like that. The whole idea is to compensate you for the damage. All right, here are classification of crimes. Now remember, crimes are wrongs against society. A felony is a very serious crime, and it's the most severe sanction. You're going to federal or state penitentiary for more than a year. With a misdemeanor, that's a lesser crime than a felony, and its usual punishment is like a fine, or you could be imprisoned for up to a year in the local jail. We also look at criminal liability about the criminal act itself. Was it an act of commission? Did you do something wrong? Did you commit a crime? Or was it an act of omission? Did you not do something that you should have, like paid your taxes? We look at the intent to commit a crime. What was your mental state? Murder was your intent to take their life. Theft was your intent to take another's property. You knew it, you did it on purpose. Oops, back one. Okay, so Constitution has safeguards here. We spent a lot of time talking about the constitutional amendments in the last chapter, but we'll just go over these quickly. Fourth Amendment is search and seizure. Fourth Amendment says no warrant without a probable cause. Fifth Amendment, due process. Fifth Amendment also prohibits double jeopardy, trying someone twice for the same criminal offense. Fifth Amendment, no person is forced to be a witness against or self-incriminate themselves. Sixth Amendment, speedy trial, public lawyer, public trial. Eighth Amendment, cannot have excessive bail or fines. Search and seizure. So before searching or seizing someone's property, you must obtain a warrant. The officer must give the judge probable cause for this warrant and how it's going to affect the person or the business. There can be exceptions to getting a warrant in emergency cases or health-related situations. The exclusionary rule. Evidence obtained in violation of the rights under the 4th, 5th, or 6th, or were illegally obtained are not admissible in court. excludes them from being used. Individuals who are arrested or must be informed of their constitutional rights. If they're not, if the officer fails to do any of those are not admissible in court. Some crimes affecting businesses. Business crime is sometimes called white-collar crimes, and this came about by many years ago when men and women would go to the office. They would wear a white shirt with a white collar. They are non-violent crimes committed by individuals and businesses. One example of that is forgery, fraudulently making or altering in writing in a way that changes the legal rights. I just heard an example today of counterfeit $100 bills circulating. That would be forgery. Robbery. Robbery is the act of forcefully, and unlawfully taking another person's property. Not just stealing it, but forcefully. You held a gun to their head. You had a knife. You put them in danger somehow. Larceny is basically stealing, taking and carrying away someone's property with trying to deprive them of their own property. Embezzlement is the fraudulent taking of money or other property that has been entrusted to you. I knew of a trustee at a church who would take money out of the plate. Again, that's embezzlement because that money had been entrusted in his power. We have mail and wire fraud, mailing or causing someone else to mail a writing, something written, printed, or photocopied for the purpose of executing a scheme to defraud them, get money out of them. It could be a contemplated or an organized scheme to defraud people. Federal law says it's illegal to wire, radio, or use TV to defraud someone. And if you do that as well, you can be fined up to $1,000 or more and jailed up to 5 years. Bribery of public officials. You attempt to influence them some way. You give them something valuable. A crime occurs at that time when it's offered. Even if you didn't actually give them the money, the minute you offered it, it's considered bribery. Commercial bribery, obtaining information, secret recipes, something that you might give to another company to make them better. Commercial bribery is covering up an inferior product. You know it's inferior, but you don't tell anyone. Someone pays you money. We have bribery of foreign officials, and they actually enacted a law of foreign corrupt practice. Racketeering Influenced in Corporate Organization Act, another law preventing racketeering or crimes committed through extortion or coercion. They have little to do with the normal business activity that's going on. It's gambling, arson, extortion. Usually organized crime is associated with racketeering. It is a federal crime to use income obtained from racketeering to purchase any interest in the enterprise. It is also a federal crime to acquire or maintain an interest in the enterprise through racketeering activity, conduct or participate in the affairs of the enterprise through racketeering activity, or to conspire to do any of these previous acts. Now, if you've been charged with a crime, there are some defenses. One defense would be mistake of the fact. It's not a defense usually. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but mistake of the fact can be. For example, a man walked off with someone else's briefcase accidentally. They were sitting beside each other. He didn't know it. They looked exactly alike. He could use that as a defense, and he would not be charged of the crime. Another defense would be insanity. You lack the capacity to understand what you were doing at the time. And usually there's a test to prove whether you were insane at the time the act occurred. Entrapment prevents police agents from encouraging, suggesting, and pressuring you to admit to a crime. Immunity. You cannot force someone to give you information. If they do, that person can be granted immunity or freedom from the crime, or maybe granted a lesser sentence for the crime. Cybercrime, fairly new. Any misrepresentation, cyber fraud, knowingly made over the internet with the intention of depriving or deceiving someone else. Identity theft is the act of stealing someone else's identity to gain financial resources. Hacking, Person who uses one computer to break into another computer. This happened at Target stores back in 2013. Attackers first broke into the retailer's network using stolen network credentials. Cyber terrorism. A hacker whose purpose is to exploit a target computer and to create serious impact. Computer viruses, prolonged disruption of the computer, the cable, the satellite, any telecommunication. How do we prosecute cyber crimes? Again, raises new issues of investigation in these crimes because they're fairly new. The threshold issue is the jurisdiction. So one thing that we have to deal with, the crime was committed in California, but the guy lives in New York. Cyber laws say it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you're at, you use the internet, you can be charged. It's sometimes hard to identify the wrongdoer. They don't leave a lot of physical traces. So it requires people to go into the internet and dig. Counterfeit Access, Device, and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act accesses computers without the authority to obtain information. And prosecuting cyber crimes. At the federal level, again, this Counterfeit Access, Device, and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, again, accessing computers without the authority can be a federal crime. Facing a legal problem, we have grand theft here. Can Ray be convicted of the crime of grand theft of a firearm, even though he did not know that a gun was in the purse? So no, separate crimes. One, he knew he was taking the purse. That is a crime. The second one, he did not have intent. Do you know the difference between crimes and other wrongful conduct, elements of criminal liability, rights given to people, crimes that affect business, defenses to those crimes, and internet crime and protection of the victim? This is the end of videos for week 2. Again, if you have any problems, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.